The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
Welcome you guys to today's show. And today we're going to be talking specifically about how to keep passion in your business. And this is something that I kind of figured out also by mistake. I fell into a trap, similar to what a lot of other people do is, we go into business because we love, what we're doing, and we love to be able to help people. But what we might end up finding is that after a while, we begin to lose passion for our business. And so I thought today I want to talk about just how, this is a real thing. And, no matter how passionate you may be at one point in your business, you can begin to lose that passion if you don't, do these things that we're going to talk about today. And so we're going to really cover the 4 steps to keeping passion in your business. Not only that, but for you to continue growing, because I think what can happen is we can stop growing, we can get stagnant in our growth. And in that, or, just in the monotonous day-to-day work that we're doing, we can get bored of our work. And when it comes to building a business, these are things that, we can get busy servicing clients. We can just get in that day-to-day grind, and we can lose sight on our passion. We can lose sight on what we really started our business for, and we can begin to get burnout. We can begin to, just have a hard time with getting our business to where we really want it to be. And so, there's so many hats that we have to wear as a business owner. And so as we get into today's show, I want to really break this down for you so you can begin to kind of understand some things that you may need to do to get over that leap of, grinding and being in the day-to-day business to expressing that passion throughout your entire business and through your team. So if we think about, business today is a lot more sophisticated than, say, business, 20 years ago, where, you'd hand out business cards. Today, you have the ability to, 100x that by being on social media. And so things have gotten more efficient, but they've also maybe gotten more complicated. So if you think about, if I said, listen, go hand out 100 business cards today or 20 business cards, it might take you all day, or you could just go hand them out as fast as possible, not make a connection. And it could take you the next 20 to 30 minutes. And that's really the same way social media has the ability to do today. We have the ability to turn on a camera, be in front of thousands of people. We can either, put a piece of content out that doesn't connect with someone. And even though we may have hundreds of people, if we don't connect to them, just like if we don't connect with them handing out business cards, we're just, doing the basics. And so what we look at today is our businesses are a lot more sophisticated, but we have the ability to grow and reach people like never before. We also have the ability to connect with people in different ways than we ever did before. Some of it may feel different, if you've been around in business for a long time or, over 15, 20 years, you'll know that, hey, getting in front of people like we used to do, shaking their hand and really connecting with them, now we have that same ability to do online. It's just different, you know, and over the last couple of years, even last 18 months, that's even shifted even more. And so, you know, when it comes to your sales calls, when it comes to, you know, marketing, lead generation, putting out content, hiring and leading a team, you know, those are all the hats that we tend to wear as a business owner. And then you're talking about your own self, like what is my expertise? And so for a lot of people we work with, whether it was coaching, whether it's, you know, something in the wellness space, you might be a chiropractor, doctor, functional medicine, you might be a trainer / nutrition coach, you may be someone who, you know, sells solar, dog trainer, whatever that is, you have so many roles that you can end up fulfilling. You could be the marketing guy, you could be the sales guy, you could be the person fulfilling, you could be the one leading, you could be all of those. On top of that, you could even be a janitor, cleaner, all those things. And so we end up wearing all these hats in business, but we end up frustrated, feeling burnout. We end up kind of hating business, feeling overwhelmed because we have all these things that we need to do. We never feel like we can get ahead. For some of you guys, you know, it's like, man, I haven't even taken a vacation, or when I take a vacation, I stop making money. And so a lot of people just don't want to do those things. And that's what really begins to burn that passion out. That's really what begins to burn that fire out. And I know for me, being in the fitness industry, it's like, you know, that was training clients early morning, you know, 5 a.m., usually till 11, 12, and then having a 2 to 3 hour break, maybe a 4 hour break. And then you're training clients again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what happens is, you know, that schedule burns you out over time. And that's kind of the old traditional schedule we would run. But I remember that schedule, you know, doing that for a good 10, 12 years straight, you know, training a couple hundred clients a day. Like eventually the thing that I was most passionate about began to burn me out. And I can remember even when I first started training that I would literally want to train people for free if I could, because I was that passionate about it. But, you know, 20 years later, would I have said that same thing? And I would say definitely not. I would actually probably say the opposite and say, listen, I wouldn't train anybody for less than this amount. But that's really where we begin to burn, you know, that passion burns out. And so, you know, most of us start for free. And then we realize once that passion's gone, I'm like, man, I don't even enjoy doing this. But one thing that I noticed for me was the thing that always really helped me with that is to try and work on perfecting my craft. And so, you know, that's really where, you know, I want to get into today, because as a business owner, you know, we feel like we need to be a jack of all trades, know a little bit of everything, but master of none. I remember painting. I remember cleaning toilets. I remember doing all these things. I never felt like I was above them, but I can remember doing them and then being like, man, I don't even like doing this. Why am I pulling myself away from making, you know, $100, $200 an hour to do a $15, $28 an hour job to someone who actually does it for a living, thinking I'm saving myself money. But in the long run, you know, I was just kind of burning out on what I like to do. And so, you know, stepping into more of a CEO role and understanding that in order for us to build a business to the capacity we want, we're going to need people. Not only that, but if I need people, then I need leadership skills, because a lot of times the ability for me to grow in my company or build my company is not necessarily based on how smart I am or all the things that I know or how great of a coach or trainer I am. Many times it comes down to how good of a leader are you, and can you lead your people, and you also need people. And so those two things probably have some of the greatest impact on you having the ability to grow your business. But after being in business for 14 years, you know, running a multi-million-dollar training facilities, and then stepping into even coaching more in the virtual space, you know, at the end of the day, you need a team. and you need to have leadership skills to be able to build that. But let's get into, the 4 things. And so number 1 is really redefining your craft. And so whether you're a coach, trainer, I'm just going to list out people who, we work with, chiropractor, functional medicine doctor, nutrition coach, personal trainer, whether you're selling insurance, whether you're selling houses, you have to redefine, your craft. And what does that mean? That means that you have to constantly be reinventing yourself. You have to constantly be innovating in your craft. So constantly growing. So if I was a trainer or a coach, I can remember going to, CEC, always looking at ways that I could bring something new into my business. And so the 2 ways you redefine your craft are, number 1, you're going to have to go to continuing education, constantly redefine your craft, who you are, constantly be innovating. And then the other side of that is you have to be able to bring new and be first, kind of the first one in your area to offer something, or the first one maybe online to offer a certain way to do something. So maybe it was a nutrition coach, maybe it was a certain way or way that I innovative how to get people to eat better or go grocery shopping or prep their food. Maybe as a trainer, I was one of the first ones to begin, doing a certain type of training. And so if you're in this space, in this industry, even if you're a salesperson offering, we have guys offering selling solar, but like doing it in a specific way that no one else has ever seen it done, or even a sales process that no one else has seen it ever done. So when you redefine your craft, you have to constantly be ahead of everybody else. You have to be learning at the forefront of your business and constantly redefining the way that you do things and innovating those, and also being the first or being different inside of that. Many times just being different means that we're being one of the first to do things. Because what I hear a lot of times is, a common thing, especially, with chiropractors and doctors, is like, hey, everybody in my industry does it this way. And I'm like, well, that's the exact reason you should do it a different way, because everybody else is doing it that way. That means you should be doing something 360 degrees different or 180 degrees different, and at least packaging and positioning it that way is like, hey, we do things different than anybody else. And I can remember for us back in like 2008, 2009, we were one of the first people to offer boot camp in our community. And we were kind of like the ones always playing offense to offer something new, something different, where everybody else is playing defense and kind of reacting to what we do. All of a sudden, 2 years later, everybody else is starting to do boot camp. Then we start shifting the type of boot camp we offer compared to everybody else. And so that's really our way of differentiating ourselves in the marketplace. But I would have never been able to do that if I wouldn't have been started redefining my craft, which was constantly seeking new and different ways that I can improve. Also, number 2, which is, really learning what it takes to be a CEO. And I think there's a transition in business where we are wanting to do everything because we think, we need to wear, all these different hats. We think we need to know everything. But the problem is we can never be a CEO if we're the one trying to wear all the hats. And we can be an employee in our own business, but we will never be a CEO. And so really being a CEO is beginning to step back and look at all the pieces in your company, look at, marketing, sales, systems, fulfillment, and leadership, and really look at where are the gaps in my business. What would a CEO do versus an employee? And many times a CEO would step back and really start looking at his business and say, man, there's a huge gap in my marketing. I'm only getting referrals as my primary source of marketing. And I need some type of paid source of marketing, because the average business that's successful is spending 10 to 15% of what they bring in every single month or year on marketing. And if you're not doing that, and you're just relying on referrals, well, congratulations. But if something comes up to where your referrals were taken away, now all of a sudden you have no way to understand what it takes to get new clients in your door, which is your primary source of growing your business. The other thing is, if a CEO looked at sales, they would be looking at a sales system and really defining like, hey, am I better at selling or am I better at fulfilling? Because if a business owner is doing both, chances are he's going to have an issue with one of those two areas, whether it be fulfillment or a sales process, and it's going to pull him away. So it's going to be a big bottleneck. The other side is having systems. If you're going to have employees, you better have systems, because what happens a lot of times is people hire employees, but they don't have a system. And so there's no way for that employee to be successful in their business because they don't have actual systems. Plus, it's going to pull the person who hired them away from their day-to-day work, and they're going to have to train them. And if they don't have a system, they're going to have to train people over and over on the same exact things, but they never actually put it into a system. They never have a repeatable way of doing it. And so they end up getting frustrated with the employee because they're not doing things the way that they think they should. Other side is, fulfillment. So a lot of business owners are the marketer, the salesperson, and the fulfillment guy. And in that, you're going to start breaking down in your business. There's going to be, bottlenecks all over the place. And so you really have to look at the fulfillment process. What I see a lot of business owners do is they end up trading time for money. And a CEO would not do that. A CEO would step back and say, listen, I either need help with fulfillment, or I need help with marketing, or I need help with sales. I believe you need to understand all three and how they work and have a system for them. But if you're the only one fulfilling, that means eventually you're going to be trading in time for money, and it's going to be very hard to grow past a certain amount unless you have other people helping you with fulfillment or with, sales and marketing. The last piece is obviously leadership. Leadership really dictates your ability to grow and scale a business and run a company. And if maybe leadership isn't your thing, you still need someone on your team who can lead. And a lot of times the person who's the visionary of the business isn't necessarily the best leader. Sometimes the best leaders are the ones that are willing to follow the system and keep people accountable to those. It really just depends on what you feel like you're best at. And, I know for me, leading was really painful for me, especially early on in my career, because, I thought everybody had the same work ethic as I did. And I was always expecting people to come up to my level versus coming down to theirs and kind of meeting them where they're at. And so in that, a lot of times I would naturally push people away because, I was money motivated. I wanted to help people. And a lot of people aren't necessarily that way. They may be motivated by other things. And I always thought everybody was motivated by money. But in that and in my leadership, those are some painful lessons I had to learn. I mean, I can remember back in a gym I worked at when I became director, and I'm like, well, none of these guys want to work. None of these guys want to get paid. All of a sudden, we're doing 100 memberships a month, 150 memberships a month, and I'm signing up 75% of them. And the other guys are just basically coming in and staring at me. And I'm like, what's going on? And what I really found out is a lot of people didn't want to work for me because I wasn't leading them. I was just expecting them to do what I was doing. And that became very frustrating for me. And that was a major shift. A few years later when I opened my business, that really got exposed. And so I had to constantly work through that. But, through all that stuff, you get to learn and you get to grow. Now, number 3, so we have number 1, which is redefine your craft. Number 2, learn what it takes to be a CEO. Number 3 is really about delegating. See, if we could spend 90 to 95% of our time working on the thing that we're passionate about, we love, our business would be crushing it. The problem is we spend about 80% of our time working on all the stuff we don't really want to work on. And then about 20% of the time actually working on the things that we really are passionate about, really want to do. And so you got to learn how to delegate, because you really have to learn what your time is worth. And what I see a lot of people do is they will say, hey, I'm saving $15 by not hiring an assistant, not hiring that person. They'll save the 15, they'll save, the $15 and miss out on making the $100 or $200 they're worth per hour. So in delegation, I believe every person who has their own business, if they're making over $7,000, $8,000 a month, they should have one person working for them who's an assistant, and they should immediately start delegating anything that they really don't want to do that is repeatable and could be systemized in their business, as long as they don't have to have some specific certification or things like that. Many times for business owners, it's going to come down to like paperwork, answering phones, helping with marketing, things like that. Those are things that could easily be delegated, and someone potentially, you pay them between $12, $13, up to $20 an hour to be able to do a lot of that work for you. That would free up your time. And I can tell you this, it took me about 7 or 8 years before I hired my first VA. When I hired them, I'm like, man, why didn't I do this, 4 or 5 years ago? I realized how much time I was wasting doing a lot of these things I really didn't want to do. And once I got a VA and realized that someone else could help me, that was when everything changed. And so you got to learn to delegate many of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that aren't bringing you in, what you're really worth per hour. And then you need to decide how much money you're wasting by doing these $15, $20 an hour jobs. So delegate is going to be huge. Now, the last part of this, which we've talked a lot about, is being able to lead a team, which starts with being able to lead yourself. And so, a lot of business owners are employees inside of their businesses. And the reason why is they never actually lead a team, or their team doesn't really know how they can win inside of your business, inside of your company. But it all starts with you. And so if you're not leading yourself, if you don't know how you're going to win yourself, what ends up happening is we just don't, we don't show up. We don't show up for ourselves. And so then we struggle leading a team. And so lead yourself. And when you lead yourself, then you can begin to lead other people. And leading yourself means that you have clearly defined goals. You know where you're going, you know what you want. And then leading your team is knowing what they want and knowing where they're going, but also being able to, give them a vision of how they can win inside of your business, which, all comes down to leadership. And so these are the 4 ways, which, we'll go through this: redefine your craft, learn what it takes to be a CEO, delegate anything and everything that's not equivalent to what your time is worth. And then just leadership, being able to lead a team, which starts with leading yourself and being clear on where you're going and what your plan is. So those are the top 4 ways that you can, keep that passion in your business. And, remember this, like, why did I start a business, and what is it going to take for me to actually start leading in my business? And that starts with, redefining your craft. That starts with making a decision to be a CEO in your business. That starts with beginning to learn how to delegate. And then that leadership piece, leading yourself, to then being able to lead your team. So guys, if you're listening to this live, #live. If you're watching the replay, #replay. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you for being a part of the Habit-Based Lifestyle community. And we will see you next week.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse